There was a boy named Percy. And like all boys and girls, he never wanted to go to bed on time. The hut where he lived with his mother was small, made of rough stone, such as are many in those places, and stood just on the border between England and Scotland. And although they were poor people in the evenings, when peat was burning brightly in the hearth and a candle was blinking affably, their house seemed extremely cozy. Percy was very fond of basking himself by the fire and listening to old tales that his mother told him, or just dozing, admiring the bizarre shadows from the blazing hearth. Finally the mother said, "Well, Percy, it's time to sleep." But Percy always thought it was too early, and he argued and bickered with her before leaving, and as soon as he lay in his wooden crib and put his head on the pillow, he immediately fell asleep with a sound sleep. And then one evening Percy argued with his mother for so long that she lost her patience, and taking a candle, she went to bed, leaving him alone by the burning hearth. Sit here alone by the fire," she said to Percy as she walked away. "Here comes an old evil fairy and drag you away for not listening to your mother. Just think. I'm not afraid of evil old fairies," thought Percy, and stayed to bask by the fire. And in those distant times, in every farm estate, in every hut, there was a little brownie, who every night went down the chimney and put things in order in the house, polished everything and washed everything. Percy's mom left him a whole jug of goat cream at the door to thank him for his work, and in the morning the jug was always empty. These little brownies were good-natured and friendly brownies, only they were very easily offended a little. And woe to that mistress who forgot to leave them a jug of cream. The next morning, everything in her house was turned upside down. Moreover, offended, the brownies were no longer shown to her. But the brownie, who came to help Percy's mother, always found a jug of cream, and therefore never left their house without cleaning everything well while Percy and his mother were fast asleep. But he had a very angry mother. This evil old fairy hated people. It was her that Percy's mother remembered when she went to bed. At first, Percy was very pleased that he insisted on his own and stayed to bask by the fire. But when the fire began to gradually fade away, he felt somehow uncomfortable and wanted to go to a warm bed as soon as possible. He was about to get up and leave, when suddenly he heard rustling in the chimney, and immediately a little brownie jumped into the room. Percy flinched in surprise, and the brownie was surprised to find Percy not yet in bed. Staring at the long-legged brownie with pointed ears, Percy asked, "What's your name?" "Himself," answered the brownie, making a funny face. "And you?" Percy thought the brownie was joking and wanted to outsmart him. "I myself," he replied. "Catch me, I myself," shouted Brownie, and jumped aside. Percy and the brownies began to play by the fire. Brownie was a very nimble imp. He so deftly jumped from the wooden sideboard to the table, well, like a cat, and jumped and tumbled around the room. Percy couldn't take his eyes off him. But then the fire in the hearth was almost completely extinguished, and Percy took a poker to stir the peat, but unfortunately one burning ember fell right on the little brownie's leg. And poor Brownie yelled so loudly that the old fairy heard him and shouted into the chimney, "Who hurt you? Now I will go downstairs, then he will be in trouble." Frightened, Percy darted out the door to the next room, where his wooden bed stood, and crawled headlong under the covers. "It's me," answered the brownie. Then why are you yelling and preventing me from sleeping? The old evil fairy was angry. And scold yourself. And after that, a long, bony hand with sharp claws stuck out of the pipe, grabbed the little brownie by the collar and lifted it up. The next morning, Percy's mom found a jug of cream in the same spot by the door where she had left it the night before. And the little brownie did not appear in her house again. But although she was upset that she had lost her little assistant, she was very glad that from that evening on, she no longer had to remind Percy twice that it was time to go to bed.